All right, today we are jumping into one of the most fiery, complex, and let's be honest, misunderstood documents in history, the Apostle Paul's letter to the Galatians. And I'll tell you what, we're probably going to challenge everything you think you know about it.
So let's just dive right in. When I say the name Apostle Paul, what picture pops into your head? For a lot of us, right, he's this super familiar figure. We feel like we just kind of get him. But here's the twist. What if that very familiarity is the biggest roadblock we have?
You know, the brilliant Cambridge scholar Morna Hooker, she put it perfectly. She would actually kick off her university lectures on Paul with that very line. And that's exactly where we need to start. To really, truly understand Galatians, we first have to unlearn a bunch of stuff we think we already know.
Yeah, there's actually a name for this. Scholars call it the domestication of the apostle. And what it means is we have this habit of making Paul, well, just like us. We read our own modern lives, our own experiences, back into his ancient world. I mean, the artist Rembrandt literally painted a self-portrait as Paul. But see, that's a trap. It totally prevents us from hearing what this letter is actually trying to say on its own terms.
So, the big question is, how do we escape that trap? Well, the secret is we have to make Galatians feel strange again. And to do that, I've got 5 keys for you. Think of them as 5 essential tools that are going to unlock the world this letter was actually born into.
All right, let's grab key number 1.
Okay, first things first, we have got to treat this as an ancient document. Paul was a first-century Jew living in a world just soaked in scriptures and customs that are so different from ours. We're talking about a 2,000-year gap here. And acknowledging that distance, that's not just a minor detail. It's absolutely the most important first step to reading this thing honestly.
Okay, ready for key number 2? This is where it starts to get really interesting.
All right, this next one is huge. Galatians is not a fight between Christianity and Judaism. Why? Because as separate religions, they didn't even exist yet. That whole idea is just, well, it's historically wrong. What we're actually listening in on is an internal family debate. It's an intra-Jewish argument between different groups of Jesus followers. And the huge question on the table was this: how do non-Jews, the Gentiles, fit into this new thing God is doing?
Okay, key number 3. And I'm telling you, this one could change everything about how you read Paul.
It's all about the power of a single word. See, our English Bibles use the word law, but that's a translation of a Greek word, which is itself a translation of the Hebrew concept of Torah. Now, for Paul and any Jew in the first century, Torah wasn't this big, heavy set of rules designed to crush you. No way. It was seen as a life-giving gift from God, like an instruction manual for how to live well. And just by translating that beautiful, positive idea of Torah into the much more negative-sounding law, we have completely changed how people have read Paul for centuries.
All right, let's keep it moving. Key number 4.
We really have to picture this. This letter wasn't written for someone to curl up by the fire for some quiet study time, not at all. In the first century, something like 93% of people couldn't read, so Galatians was written to be read aloud. It was meant to be performed, heard by the entire community all at once. It was a public, shared event. And that changes everything, doesn't it? The message was always for the us, not the me. And man, that is a huge challenge to how we read things today.
And that brings us to our 5th and final key to unlocking this letter.
Last but not least, Galatians is what scholars call occasional literature. So don't think of it as a theology textbook meant to last forever. Think of it more like an urgent email, where you're only hearing one side of the conversation. It was written to solve a specific crisis that was blowing up in a specific community at a specific time. And if we don't know what that crisis was, we are almost guaranteed to misunderstand the whole thing.
Okay, so we've got our 5 keys. Let's use them to unlock the door. What was that crazy, urgent crisis happening in Galatia? Let's get into the story, the drama that sparked this whole letter.
Because really, to get the letter, you got to get the guy who wrote it. Paul started out as a Pharisee, and a really zealous one at that. He was completely passionate about God's plan for his people, for Israel. So from his point of view, this new Jesus movement wasn't a good thing. It was a dangerous detour that was messing everything up. So he did everything he could to stamp it out. That is, until that famous, blinding encounter on the road to Damascus that just completely flipped his world upside down and gave him a totally new mission.
Okay, so fast forward a few years. Paul's on his first big missionary trip. He's in the region of Galatia, and then something incredibly violent and totally life-changing happens. In a town called Lystra, a mob attacks him. They stone him, and they literally leave him for dead.
And it's this event, right, this near-death experience, it seems to be exactly what Paul is talking about later in the letter. He writes to them and says, "It was because of a bodily condition that I preached the gospel to you the first time." You have to wonder, what was that condition? Well, a lot of scholars are pretty convinced he's talking about the horrible, broken state he was in right after that brutal stoning.
I mean, can you just picture it? Paul is shattered, bleeding, basically left for dead. He can't go anywhere. And these people, the Galatians, who, remember, are Gentiles, not Jews, they take him in, they nurse him back to health. And right there, in that raw moment of crisis and compassion, a church is born. You can just imagine the deep personal bond that was forged between them.
But then, trouble comes to town. After Paul leaves, this other group of teachers shows up, and they're preaching a completely different message. Paul's gospel, it was all about radical inclusion. Salvation in Christ is a free gift for everyone, Jew and Gentile, as they are, no extra steps. But these new guys, these agitators, they insisted that for the Gentile men to really be saved, to truly be part of God's people, they had to become Jewish first. And that meant getting circumcised. That conflict, that clash between two totally different gospels, that's the crisis that lights the fuse on this letter.
And when you understand all that, the true nature of this letter just clicks into place.
So you see, this isn't some calm, cool, collected theological essay, not even close. Paul is writing this in a white-hot state of passion and urgency. It's what scholars call a hot rhetorical letter. His grammar is sometimes a mess, his tone is sharp, it's provocative because he's in the middle of a fight for his life's work. He's fighting to protect the people he loves, and he's fighting to defend the very heart of the gospel. This is not a textbook. It's a letter on fire.
And all of this leaves us with one last question to think about. Galatians isn't just a list of doctrines. It's a raw, emotional, human document, forged in a very real, very personal crisis. So knowing the whole story, the context, the near-death experience, the passion, how does that change the way you'll read it from now on? And maybe even bigger than that, how could this approach change the way you read any ancient text?